What's up, everybody? Welcome back to State of Independence. I hope everybody's had a good week. And as you may have heard, we had some record flooding here in the Hamilton County area, and I hope anybody wasn't affected by it. There unfortunately were a few fatalities, and there was a lot of damages. And if anybody watching was affected by it, then my heart goes out to you, and I hope that everything gets straightened out, and I hope that you're okay. And yeah, it was pretty crazy seeing that much rain come down in 2 hours. But we've got a different show for you today because I've got a screen sharing app and I'm still kind of learning how to use it, so I'll do my best to avoid having so many ads pop up whenever I'm switching to different videos. But we're going to check out a couple of clips and talk about them. And here we go.
A rude awakening in Tennessee, realizing now, and I think the people in Tennessee are seeing that if you hit R at the ballot box, you're voting for a recession right now, because that's what Donald Trump's bringing to Tennessee. And if you look at some of these congressional races there in Tennessee, they are getting very, very, very competitive. We've already seen Democrats with about a 10 to 15% overperformance in the various races thus far. And from what I'm hearing from all of my sources, Trump and the
Now this might be a left media source that might be a little biased. I'm not sure. Somebody sent me this clip earlier, but you guys know how I feel about it. He's saying if you vote R, you're voting for recession. And, a lot of that is true. He's going to give you some facts on this of why some of that is true, but I don't necessarily want to tell you that voting Democrat at the ballot box is going to fix the problem either. You have your own issues that come with that, and these candidates really need to step up and start doing some of the right things instead of just saying them.
MAGA Republicans are terrified about losing seats in Tennessee right now, and they should be. Look at some of these headlines right here. This from WKRN News 2. Tennessee manufacturers are bracing for impact as Trump tariff plan moves forward. That's a kind of a nice title considering the impact, frankly, has already been felt. Bridgestone closing its plant in Laverne, affecting 700 workers. Adient, an automaker, shut down 2 facilities in Columbia and Lexington, cutting over 400 jobs. Purdue Farms closed its poultry plant in Monterey, laying off 433 employees. Tennessee ranks among one of the top 10 states for auto part exports. With nearly 350 jobs tied to manufacturing, according to the National Association of Manufacturers and State Labor Reports. And the proposed tariffs on steel, machinery, and other parts are really impacting the industry there. There have been a number of builders also in the area that have been backing off in the Tennessee and various cities and towns of both commercial and residential projects because of the uncertainty in the economy. Then we go to the Medicaid cuts from the disastrous budget bill. One line item to mention is that at least 12 Tennessee nursing homes are likely going to go bye-bye as a result of this disastrous budget bill. You just take a look at some of these charts of the impact of the disastrous.
And I know nursing homes are a pretty big issue, not just in Tennessee, but in the country overall, because at this point in time, we basically have more old people than we ever have had. And healthcare costs more in this country for what you get for what you pay. It's like worse than a lot of other advanced Western countries. So nursing homes, yeah, that's a huge issue. Like a lot of people don't know where to put their parents or grandparents and can't take care of them themselves. Yeah, that's a big one.
Budget bill on how it affects the health care that people get under the Affordable Care Act. Estimates show between 68,000 to 170,000 people in Tennessee could lose their access to the Affordable Care Act marketplace insurance plans because of changes to the program's funding. You then look at the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program in Tennessee. Work requirements in the disastrous budget bill are projected to reduce SNAP benefits by 20%, or about 250 to 300 million for Tennessee. So what are the Tennessee Republican representatives, Congress members doing? Well, they're lying about their backgrounds. You've got MAGA Republican Congress member Andy Ogles in Tennessee's 5th saying that he's an economist, but then it turns out that he barely passed one econ class in college. A Tennessee outlet published a copy of his college transcript, and shocker, a guy who doesn't know what tariffs is or who lies about tariffs is not actually a renowned economist like he claims he is. Also, a huge deal. Andy Ogles admits his claims to have loaned himself $320,000 to his campaign were not true.
Now, the idea of tariffs, I was open to it in the beginning, and some of it sounded interesting because if you look back in history, before we had income tax, we actually did use tariffs to make a lot of money. And I understand the concept a little bit, but at the same time, like we're dealing with some major issues. We have like over 50% of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. So rolling the dice on something like that is like really hard right now. And also, like they were just talking about all those cuts to Medicare and people getting access to the Affordable Care Act. I totally agree that we need to make some cuts and we're spending too much money in the government, but leaving people out on the curb, so to speak, with their health care and cutting a lot of people is not necessarily the direction I would like to see it go. And some people would push back and say, oh, well, what do you mean? Where are you going to start? Where do you want to cut the money from? Well, for one, a lot of the money that they cut away from programs like that, they found ways to put it back into the military budget and into giving tax breaks to the richest individuals. And also, yes, they are trying to give tax breaks to everybody, basically, like people in the middle class. And well, the weird thing is the budget bill actually raises taxes on people that make less than 17,000 a year, so not the lower class. But either way, billionaires are the ones that are going to benefit the most, and we cut money away from so many programs and benefits basically to give the military and billionaires more money. I would have been more okay with it if we cut a lot of other programs that didn't affect people as much and we didn't put all the money back into the military. And yeah, you guys know how I feel about the billionaire thing. It's ridiculous. It's a mess.
Ooh, I mean, that has shades of George Santos. Didn't George Santos say that he had given himself, all of these loans? And it's like, dude, you don't have that money. What are you talking about? Of course, there was the FBI raids of Andy Ogles. Andy Ogles had to turn his cell phone over, and this is how Andy Ogles framed it, based on. Andy Ogles says, I just made a mistake. I just made a boo-boo after FBI agents executed a search warrant on him. And this is what Ogles says. It's been widely reported for months that my campaign made mistakes in our initial filings. We have worked diligently with attorneys and reporting experts to correct the errors and ensure compliance going forward. Last Friday, the FBI took possession of my cell phone. It's my understanding that they're investigating the same well-known facts surrounding these filings. I will, of course, fully cooperate with them, just as I have with federal election commissioners before. I am confident all involved will conclude the reporting discrepancies were based on honest mistakes and nothing more. Yes, honest mistakes from Andy Ogles, who would like Donald Trump to be the dictator for life. He literally is the guy who introduced legislation, Ogles was.
Now, yeah, this guy, his situation does not look very good. Like it just said, the FBI is raiding him, looking into his stuff. And campaign finance is a huge issue in this country. We have got to have stricter laws and regulations about campaign finance because, as I've said in other videos, it's so shady the way it works, the way that individuals, foreign entities, third parties, they can funnel money from a shell corporation or a nonprofit into a PAC and then into a campaign. And yeah, there's a lot of money coming from weird sources, and every now and then people get obviously caught and they have to do something about it. But think of how much shady stuff that doesn't get caught. Like we've got to demand that it happens on both sides. So like yeah, he's talking about this Republican that got caught doing it, but Democrats do the same thing all the time. It is a two-party issue.
Who said that Trump should serve a third term, a fourth term, a fifth term? Here, play this clip.
Ads. Sorry, guys.
So you're willing to break the Constitution and have President Trump have a third term?
Well, actually, I have a bill that amends the Constitution, and there's a process by which you can do that. Now, let's be honest, that's a tough and long road. It has to go through the House, has to go through the Senate, it has to be ratified by the states. But I think what it does is it forces a conversation when you juxtapose the Trump administration, his vision for America, versus the failed policies of Joe Biden.
Let's bring in Metro Nashville Council member Mike Cortez.
And I think one of the issues with proposing Trump to have a third term, besides the fact that it's just unconstitutional, is it goes back to the whole deep division in the country, because their rationality behind him having a third term is, oh, he got cheated out of what was supposed to be his second term in 2020. And they'll throw up, oh well, the Democrats are doing this and the Democrats did that, and they're cheating, so we're gonna do this. And like, and it's getting worse and worse, because like I had previously stated, in Texas and in California, you were seeing cheating on both sides. It is literally just outright cheating. It's gerrymandering. Texas has basically set it up to where they're going to have like all Republican seats and majority. They're adding some seats, and the Democrats in Texas like got so upset and protested that they all left and didn't vote, and the governor like issued warrants for their arrest. And then in California, Gavin Newsom's gerrymandering everything and trying to eliminate any Republican seats and add more Democrat seats. And it's outright cheating. And the answer to it is not going to be more cheating. No, we have got to lay down some rules and make this stuff more fair, because if not, it's just going to get more extreme and more radical, and their rationale is going to be, oh well, if I don't do it, then those other people are going to do it first, and they did it, so I'm going to have to do it. That is not a good, positive mentality to move forward for leadership.
Mr. Cortez, you're running against that guy.
I am running against Andy Ogles, yes.
Running against that guy. 5th Congressional District, Nashville.
Yes.
But it's been gerrymandered like crazy to look like a salamander, to try to get in a lot of Republicans in there, to not allow Democrats to get that seat. So first, let me get your reaction to what you saw right there at the outset, what you're seeing in Tennessee. Then let's get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. As I was telling your producer before, there's public servants, there's politicians, there's bootlickers, and then there's Andy Ogles. And I do want to be, I want to be honest about this. I think there's too much vitriol in our politics. So I'm not attacking him as a human being. I'm attacking his choices to sell out his neighbors at every turn. And he's shown he's willing to do that at any cost. I mean, you just saw the clip where he's willing to literally change the Constitution for partisan and personal benefit, right? He even another thing he did, he is willing to revoke the citizenship of a political opponent just because he doesn't like what they say. And this is the same guy who's literally lied to his neighbors.
That's another thing is I've been looking more into the congressional race with a few different candidates, and there are a few people running on the concept of the first thing that they're going to push whenever they get into the House of Representatives is going to be the amendment to end the birthright citizenship for children born of immigrants. And then, like he just said, they're talking about, oh, we need to deport and revoke the citizenship of like other political parties, people that you don't like. I think he was talking about the Zoran guy, the guy who's the mayor of New York. But this is such a slippery slope to be on, and it's the wrong choice of policies to focus on, because average Tennesseans are being affected with cost of housing, groceries, energy, all kinds of different things, and people are not um what is it? Okay, people my age basically don't have the confidence to go and start a family like they previously did. People are nervous about the idea of having a few kids, having to go buy a home, and they're just thinking to themselves, they're like, I will never be able to afford that, and I'm worried about going under a mountain of debt. I don't want to be $500,000 in debt just to try to have this dream. And there's so many issues like that that need to be focused on rather than, oh, we need to take away this birthright citizenship from these immigrants, because that's one of the things that the parties do is they create an enemy. They want to make you scared of the enemy, and then they go and they say, give me the power to attack it. And while they're doing all that, they didn't solve any of your problems that actually could make your life better. And I'm not saying that, oh, I'm anti-ICE and I disagree with immigration. That's not at all what I'm saying. I think we should have strong borders, and I think that if you're here illegally, especially committing crimes, then yes, you should be deported. But the hard magnifying glass focus on immigration on the Republican Party is ridiculous. We have better priorities.
Faces and exploited his family for personal gain. So the fact that I'm glad the nation's starting to see it now because they see what a danger he is, because we feel it in Tennessee every day. Like everything that people are going through, there's this frustration in America right now, and there's this anxiety too, right? Like people used to be able to wake up and work hard and know that tomorrow could be a little bit better if they did that. And now we have families, we have parents working 60 hours a week and they can't make ends meet. And the only thing they know is that tomorrow and the next day after that and the next day after that, things are going to get a little bit tougher. And then we have Andy Ogles chasing headlines, doing anything he can, willing to sell out his neighbors for personal gain, even if that's just one single day in headlines, and it doesn't matter the cost to him. And all these things you talked about, all those plant closures, all these problems with the economy coming up.
Hi, I'm Mark Elias, a lawyer for the Democrats, and I need your help to join me in standing up against.
You know,
We
and
know
that was what I just showed you there too. That was just the impact of the tariffs.
Yes.
Of it hasn't even really set in yet. I mean, that's just the kind of, I hate to say it, like the appetizer, the teaser of kind of what's to come. And I think when you talk to people on the streets, whether it's in Tennessee or in any states, people are feeling the pain, they're feeling the hurt. But then Donald Trump and Andy Ogles go out there and say, F your.
And out of a lot of things that, Congress can do that, sends ripples that actually affects your everyday life. And I'm sorry, not Congress. The Congress didn't enact the tariffs. But either way, the thing that affects your life the most besides prices is jobs. Losing jobs in your state is a massive effect. It is not good. It's going to make people lose hope in the economy. And this Democrat, he's saying a lot of the right things. He is acknowledging people's frustration. They're acknowledging that all these jobs got lost and people lost their coverage. And it's kind of like how a few years ago the Republicans were jumping on how disastrous the Biden administration was. And they're like, oh, look how bad this is. We could totally, we acknowledge your frustration with it and we could totally do better. This is the same thing. Now, what I challenge the Democrats to do, this individual here and the other Democrats around the state of Tennessee, is to actually adapt and grow their message because they need to stop following the national party's identity and message because the Democrat name and identity is just very, very damaged. And rightfully so because they've died on too many hills going down the wrong paths. They need to stop focusing on DEI. They need to stop calling everybody a racist. They need to actually have open conversations with people instead of just trying to immediately shut them down. Now, I know Donald Trump is easy to talk about and easy to attack, especially with a lot of the things that he's doing right now. But attacking Donald Trump is not necessarily the way to go. Like I was watching an individual earlier. He's one of the larger liberal voices in Tennessee. And most of his videos are just about, oh yeah, Trump is stupid, Trump's an idiot, Marjorie Taylor Greene's an idiot, and a lot of stuff about like, oh, anti-ICE and just a lot of that. And I'm like, I don't really see that getting us anywhere from a leadership perspective and an ideological perspective. That's just like, oh, I dislike everything that the red team is doing and my blue team is awesome. And it's the same thing with the Republicans. They say, oh, yeah, look at that blue team. They're a bunch of idiots. And then look at us, we're awesome. And they're not actually providing a lot of stuff that they should. So yeah, the Democrats need to go back to being the anti-war party and stop supporting some of this stuff, especially because AIPAC is paying a lot of the Democrats as well, and they're supporting Ukraine, not just the Israel conflict. And in Tennessee, the Democrats need to leave the guns alone because the past couple of years they've really been trying to push some gun regulation and and a lot of it is backed because there was a school shooting in Nashville a few years back, and I have sentiments to that, and I understand it's terrible that those lives were lost, but I think the Democrats need to stop trying to go after the guns in this state because they're not winning any voters, and like I had said, attacking Trump and calling Republicans stupid is not the way to go. If you ever actually want to gain support and gain voters, you're going to have to say some things that appeal to working class individuals that don't start with, oh, Trump is stupid. Because if they voted for Trump and they still kind of don't know where they stand and they're not happy with everything he's doing, but they're not sure. Starting with saying that Trump is stupid is also trying to say that they're stupid. That's not a civil discussion. That's not a way to move things forward. So besides that, stop focusing on the LGBTQ identity issues. Stop wearing that as your identity badge. Like you can respect people's lifestyles and let them live the way they want to live as long as it doesn't impede on other individuals' freedoms and lives. And just, you don't have to push it, you don't have to endorse it on everybody. Respect it, let them do what they want to do, and move on. But that's another one of those identity politics issues that they want to make us focus on. Now, there's, um, I'm sorry, I've got a few notes here. I had it a little out of place. Yeah, and then back to the migrants, and the anti-ICE is like there's another candidate that I saw in District 7 that's running, and they instantly labeled her as a leftist anti-ICE candidate for the Democrats. And I know that's probably a radical extreme label, but she's probably said a lot of things to not deserve it, but to kind of result in that. And we don't need somebody that is, oh, I'm radical anti-ICE and I want to give benefits to all the migrants and I want to not work with ICE and protect all these people and this and that. Like, no, there needs to be a certain amount of immigration enforcement, but at the same time, it needs to be done with a certain amount of empathy and clarity, and not to the point to where we are building a police state and supporting a lot of private prison systems that the taxpayers are paying for. Because people invest money into private prisons just like they invest in stocks. And then the taxpayer pays for all those prisons to run, and the profit margins coming off the top whenever they treat those people like crap goes back to all those stockholders from the taxpayer. I don't like the idea of it. We don't need to build a big system of that. So the Democrats have a lot of things that they need to step up and try to do. Especially, I mean, they need to protect farmland from development. They need to talk about housing costs. They need to talk about supporting unions and labor benefits. Like, they were really quick on this video to talk about the tariffs and talk about people losing the jobs, but they weren't talking about, oh, we need to have a strong union network. We need to have job protection. We need to have more labor benefits. Like, they're not saying things like that because the National Democrat Party has been bought by a lot of corporate interest. So, like, Jeff Bezos is one, for example. Jeff Bezos really hates unions. He doesn't want any unions in the country, especially not at his Amazon. And he donates a lot of money to the liberals every year. So they need to change their message, because what the Democrats used to stand for in the time of my grandfather when he was a state representative for Marion County, Tennessee, it was an entirely different party. And yeah, it wasn't perfect. I mean, they did, some of them did believe in segregation and things like that, but the other policies about unions, labor rights, the working man, having social safety nets, supporting social security, their heart was in the right place on a lot of those issues. And I challenge the Democrats to propose some other things to the state of Tennessee that could really benefit their message. Now, one of the reasons why these Democrats are polling so well right now, it's not just because it's not just because the Trump message isn't doing so well right now, because it was doing good for like the first couple of months. And it's not so much that the Trump message has busted, but you are seeing some of these ripple effects from the jobs, and people are kind of coming to a realization. They're like, it's not really changing the way that it was presented to me. Things are kind of running in a bad direction, kind of the same way Biden was running them, just with more of a Republican flavor. And in Tennessee, the Republicans have been in control for the last 20 years, and they have not done very much with it. We have a surplus with our tax revenue, which is awesome, but they have not developed a lot of social safety nets and a lot of things that working class individuals and low income individuals need. They haven't really invested back into the infrastructure, education, other things like that the way that they could have. And we don't have an income tax here. I think there's a way to do all that without an income tax because we have a surplus. But they need to talk about job allocation, trade schools. They need to talk about upgrading our roads and dams. And another thing, push for being a national park state. Chattanooga is now the first national park city in the U.S. Let's push to make Tennessee the first national park state. Let's respect our forests and our green spaces. And if they could change their message a little bit, maybe it could get somewhere. But that's just a thought. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Much love, and I hope you guys have a great week. I'll see you next time.